woman. Beautiful, warrior, veteran. She that inspires.
Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm Wanda Petty, your host on She That Inspires, and I have with me today Jennifer Foxworthy, and she is such an awesome woman veteran that I just had to bring it to the forefront so that she could share her experiences with you all. And you know, Jennifer is from the Navy, and she retired. She's a retired veteran, so she's a mother, and she's doing some awesome work in the community. And I just had to bring her to the forefront because my goal to do is to just really highlight our sisters. I want to highlight them because you know why? We deserve it. I think many of us is coming out of the service, and we are taking our leadership skills and we're doing things that, you know, cause for boldness. It calls for, you know, just tenacity. And she's doing that. So without further ado, I want to welcome you, Jen, and thank you so very much for coming on this show. I'm just elated because I know all the wonderful work that you're doing out there. And you know, I appreciate it because it needs to go out. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because of your work in the domestic violence segment. I've experienced that, and I've experienced it while active duty. And I believe that there are more women, wives, even some spouses of military, you know, service members who are experiencing that, and they are in that position that I once was in. Absolutely. That are afraid to say something because of the service member's career.
Absolutely.
Not so much as that they, you know, they're afraid for their lives.
Right.
It's what's going to happen to him.
Absolutely.
So I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. And I know that you've experienced numerous amount of awards while you were active duty, and some of the just profound things that you have done and what you're going into now. So just share with us a little bit about your career.
Wanda, I am a retired Navy combat veteran. Served our country for 21.7 years. I diversified my portfolio. So early in my career, I detected and localized and tracked enemy ships and submarines. Then I went Naval Air Crewman, which was an elite group, kind of like a step below your Navy SEALs, so to speak. Did 15 years in that. And I didn't realize when I went into that realm that I would be busting stereotypes and dealing with discrimination. In my mind, it's one fight, one team. But in 3 different squadrons, I was the first in 3 different categories to include first Naval Air Crewman African American, first Naval Air Crewman African American in the enlisted ranks, and then at my last squadron, the first female in-flight technician. And I'm like, this is from mid-90s into the 2000s. Why am I the first in these 3 different categories in our aviation field? And then I switched from military warfare to military welfare. My last tour, I became a certified substance abuse counselor. And I think that's so important for our service members to diversify their portfolio.
Definitely.
I took advantage of that. Once I retired, I started speaking in 2005, just chance opportunities. And I took it seriously as I was about to transition, started my own business, Inspirationally Speaking, LLC, where I'm a professional motivational speaker, go around the country speaking I also published my first book.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me that you took your skills and what you really did, what I'm hearing is that you did the little additional duties because we're not required to be the drug and alcohol representative. We're not required to, be the, the EO.
Right.
Those are things that come from your heart.
Absolutely.
The passion is what makes you want to do those things, and it derives from wanting to help others.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is that you took those things and literally it just kind of walked you into what you're doing now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I call it diversify your portfolio. The military has that opportunity if you choose to accept it. Your tours don't have to be, okay, I have to go to this squadron or platoon, and then, you have a shore duty opportunity. And many people had told me, "Oh, you're killing your career," because I didn't stay the average career path.
But they didn't know it was for your future.
Absolutely, but God did.
Yes.
And I made it work for me. I knew I would have to work longer hours and prove myself, but it was all beneficial because the networking, the outreach in the community. I actually received the military volunteer service medal. So I have 4 air medals from my combat tours. Flying in different regions. I was in the Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq, flying in those wars. But again, Wanda, it all helped me to be who I am as a founder and CEO of Inspirationally Speaking, that networking. If this didn't work out, then I would have my electronic mechanic skills to fall back on, to where I could go to Raytheon, Boeing if I wanted, because I got my journeyman certificate. If I wanted to continue with substance abuse counseling, I could do that too, because I became certified.
So how did you come to the conclusion that these were the things that you wanted to do? I know for myself that many of the things that you're talking about in the Army, we call it cross training. So oftentimes the career counselor doesn't really go over that.
No.
How did you sit down and really say, and because it was one of those moments, which I like to say, a come to Jesus moment, or really just kind of navigating your career, your future, and begin to prepare for what you wanted to do. So how did you come to that decision that I want to take all of these different things that none has nothing to do with the other,
right,
and use them for my second wind, I like to say. When you get out, it's the second wind, because you gotta pick up where you left off at, and you really are expected to carry it further than where you've already gone. So how did you come up with that conclusion?
It's crazy to admit, but I thought I was dodging the hard bullets, so to speak. From transitioning from detecting and localizing enemy ships and submarines, the job that I was in, they were going to force convert it into a field that went on ships and things. And I'm like, I was spoiled after 4 years. I'm not going on no big, great things, even though I was in the Navy. So I said, well, I'll do the same thing, but do it in an airplane. So I just kind of maneuvered. I maneuvered myself into those different fields. And then as far as the certified career substance abuse counseling, I wanted to end my career doing something bigger than myself. So I again took the unconventional route, but I wanted to. Yeah, that was it. My whole career, I've done things that were bigger than myself.
Yeah.
But this was giving back to our service members who were broken and dealt with addiction and abuse. And I felt that I had the characteristics that could support them. Not enable them, but to help them along.
So share with us, Jen, some of your triumphs that you may have had. We all have had experience in the military that sometimes we don't like to reflect back on. Mm-hmm. Even though I like to think of it as those things that we experience is really just to launch you into your future.
Right.
But we don't like to look back at them. So share with us some of the triumphs and maybe one of the difficult things that you found yourself having to get over while you were active duty, and what did you do to cause yourself to triumph? Or what was it? I won't say that you did it, but what was it that caused you to triumph over that situation?
Oh gosh, Wanda, I would say being a good role model for those around me. Mm-hmm. As I went up the ladder of leadership, we've had those good and bad examples. Mm-hmm. I was training my replacement, and I always kept that in my mind. Mm-hmm. So my triumph is when a junior service member of mine made rank, mm-hmm. and then they come back and thank and said, thank you, chief, or thank you, for taking the time, or thank you for giving me that kick in the butt that I needed when I was being stubborn, or thank you for explaining things to me in a certain way. Thank you for getting me involved in community activities, because the service, they want a well-rounded force. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was doing. And people caught on to that we cannot be narrow-minded and just, okay, I'm going to work, I'm going to do my job, and then I go home. No, you need, in order to, in the Navy, to go up that leadership ladder, have a diversified, what are you doing extra, basically?
Yeah.
So my greatest triumph is when I have service members that remember me to now they're shooting up the leadership ladder themselves. And they come back and say, thank you, you inspire me.
Now, we have, many, many women that are watching, or individuals, our viewers, period, that are watching this show. And I'm just going to ask you this question, and we're going to come right back. And I want you to think about it.
Okay.
I really want you to think about what was the one thing, just one thing, that you may have really experienced while you were active duty that you didn't think you were going to be able to overcome. And you see other people nowadays that are talking about that same situation. What would you say to them? What would you do? How did you get out of that? Because this is what we need to know. This is what we need to know. These are the things that we're sitting at home wondering, is somebody like me?
Amen.
Am I in this by myself? Am I just experiencing this? Is it in my head? Can somebody help?
You got it.
Okay. So we'll be right back, and I want you to stay tuned because this is She Vet Inspires, and I'm here with Jennifer Worthy.
There are so many things that we take for granted in our lives, but one thing that we should never take for granted are the brave men and women of our volunteered armed forces who daily risk their lives for our freedom. Some of these brave warriors have suffered catastrophic injuries. Many are missing limbs or have been badly burned. Some will suffer the effects of traumatic brain injury for the rest of their lives. The Wounded Warrior Project was created to help and support these injured heroes. Regardless of your position on the war, they deserve our help. Please consider the many ways that you can get involved. The Wounded Warrior Project's motto is, "The greatest casualty is being forgotten." Let's continue to help make this generation the most well-received group of injured veterans in our nation's history. We owe it to them. To learn more, call 877-832-6997 or visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
Welcome back, everyone. This is She Vet Inspires, and I'm here today with Jennifer Worthy, and she's sharing with me her wonderful experiences and the things that she's doing, how she took her skills from the military and launched them into her now business, of which she helps women to overcome the challenges of domestic violence. So, Jen, I asked you a question a little while ago, and I really, I want you to kind of like just give a overview of what was that particular situation or that case that you were experiencing, and how did you get out of that? Absolutely,
Wanda. When I was in the Naval Air Crew community, like I said, I faced, I was the first in several different categories.
Which sometimes bring challenges, just
absolutely.
Like the women now who are, fighting for equal rights.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I love the Navy, I love my country and everything, but when you're the first of something, there's going to be some challenges. And in this community, you had a group of men who were used to having things a certain way. Then all of a sudden you have a jovial African-American female coming into the community, and it changes up the whole perspective of things. Where now okay, what is this? How do we act?
How do we act?
So I faced many challenges of being accepted. I was trying to fit in where I stood out. And that provided a professional war for me. Also, at the same time, I was facing a personal war of being in an abusive relationship that I didn't even realize what it was that I was in. I just knew that the things I was dealing with were not cool. So I tell people that I was better prepared to be a prisoner of war based on my Naval Air Crew training than to deal with domestic violence. So I had two issues going on. Trying to prove that I belong in a community that did not have people that looked like me. And then also trying to identify, why is this love hurting? I tell you, it was nothing but the grace of God, my faith.
I say, go ahead, give him the glory.
Amen. Amen. It was nothing but his grace that pulled me through, because there was many times after I had to prove myself in the first squadron. Then I go to my second squadron. When it happened at my second squadron of trying to fit in and prove that I belong, there were many times I thought of suicide. Because I just wanted to stop. Why am I having to prove that I belong, but we're supposed to be on one team, one accord?
Yeah.
And I now came across a term called racial fatigue, where someone is tired of trying to prove that they belong and get pushed back, held down because of their skin, and it may not even just be racial fatigue, it could be religion fatigue, it could be any fatigue. But when someone is tired, that's what triggers, I want it to stop. But I'm grateful I had a female supervisor. She wasn't a Naval Air Crewman, but she worked in my shop. And during shift change, I went to her and explained what my thoughts were.
Yeah.
I was having this ideology.
That's the key right there.
Yes.
And that is just saying something, because that's that monologue that we often seem to think that,
Yes.
it's really okay, and it's not okay. It's not okay to have a negative monologue with yourself or within yourself to harm yourself.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it comes in a little small whisper, and it just continues to go, but you have to, think about, okay, is that really?
Absolutely.
What's gonna happen? I like to think of it as when a thought like that, pops up, looking down the line of how am I going to affect those that I love.
Absolutely, because we're being selfish when you think of suicide, but at the time, I'm like,
but it doesn't feel selfish.
Right.
You just want it to end.
You want the, because you're constantly trying to have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And you want it to stop. You want to, but God has now showed me that I am unique. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And when you are chosen, many are chosen, but few are called. Amen. You will stand out.
Yeah.
So there was no coincidence that led through that.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
So I would encourage Wanda, anybody who thinks of suicide, to seek help. So my supervisor, she stopped what she was doing. She didn't have to give anyone, where are you going to? She took me over to Fleet and Family Service Center, which was a program on the base that had different counselors. And that began my journey to just kind of get it out there. And they helped me speak to my leadership and to say, hey, something has to change. This is what's going on in your commands, and your
and it needs to be paid attention
addressed.
to.
Exactly. So I would encourage anybody, if you're having these thoughts, seek help. Speak up. It's the devil trying to steal your joy. But when a person is not in their spiritual, when they're not strong spiritually, they become susceptible to those thoughts. And I wasn't. I took God on and off the shelf when it was convenient for me. So, and then again, I also had the personal war of dealing with the abuse.
Yeah.
And like we were talking earlier, you don't want to get the person in trouble. You just want the issue to stop.
You just want it to stop.
And it happens so gradually.
Yeah.
My first physical altercation, or first physical from my ex-boyfriend, I thought I was pregnant, and I told him the possibility, and he just hauled off and punched me in the stomach.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just shocked. I told him to get out and everything else, but inquisitive like many women, I wanted to know, why did you just do what you did? I didn't tell a soul until after we were broken up, but 5.5 years I dealt with that. Once I got out of my situation, Wanda, I found out that I'm not alone, and I don't need to be ashamed.
Yeah.
That 1 in 4 women will be in an abusive relationship in their lifetime, and 1 in 7 men. But this was going on in the service. You don't want to mess with the, you got the clearances, the top secret clearance. You don't want that to. If you're sharing rent, you don't want to lose the livelihood.
But there comes a moment, Jen, that I remember exactly what you're talking about. And that means you just have to be smarter.
Yeah.
You've got to be 10 steps ahead of whoever that is in your life that is trying to hold you down, because in most cases that individual they have something going on with them that they don't know how to handle. It could be anything. It could be that they weren't raised with a father. It could be that that they feel ashamed about something, and they just want to be in control.
Yes.
So oftentimes we get stuck trying to protect them.
Yep. Put ourselves last.
Yeah, and it's not worth it, because your life and your if you have children, I had children. I had to make a decision. If I don't protect myself, if I don't get out of this situation, then I'm not going to be alive to raise my children, and I don't think anyone wants that. So fast forward here, because our time is drawing nigh. Fast forward. Tell me what you're doing in the community with your organization.
My business, Inspirationally Speaking, LLC, I am a professional motivational speaker. So there's several different topics. If you go on my website, www.inspirationallyspeaking.com, you'll see Jennifer speaking topics. My website is like a one-stop shop. I talk to the youth, I talk to women, I have my own women's conference, Unstoppable You. I have my own television show, Living Unshackled, on purpose. I want people, the viewers, to release the shackles, whether it's fear, doubt, domestic violence, sexual abuse, whatever it is that's keeping them from living on purpose. I want them to release it, to know that they're not alone. So can
someone call you who is not local in your area?
Absolutely. If you don't have a computer to look at my website or email me, you can reach me at 410-449-2173. That's my business phone number. Again, my website, www.inspirationallyspeaking.com. And my email is jennifer@inspirationallyspeaking.com. So I'm all over the community. It's about giving back, encouraging our youth, encouraging men and women to be the best that they can be.
So, real quick, what advice would you give to someone who has served to the magnitude, or just who have served, period, and they want to serve the